So the other day, I was reading an interesting story about Insta famous people, and an article was really outing out a bunch of fake influencers about how they've built fake following of hundreds of thousands, even millions of people who were either fake accounts or just totally uninterested in what they were doing. They were just basically numbers, people that were there, but they really were ghosts. They were really not there. Let's see. I've got some messages popping out here. All right. So, how do you build a following of your ideal clients? How do you build an engaged audience of people that really want to know who you are, what you do, and are genuinely interested in possibly doing business with you? That's what I want to share with you really quick today. Adam Urbanski, also known as the Millionaire Marketing Mentor. Welcome to the Fastest Path to Cash community. As always, I've got my little page of notes here that I want to share with you. 5 quick steps. You know what initiated this today? I just saw a post from a good friend of mine, Justin Brooke. And Justin is like a total badass ninja in real sense of those words. One of the original guys of buying paid media, driving paid media traffic to people's websites, work with some of the biggest companies on the internet, still does, has an amazing training company teaching people how to become media buyers, not only training them, but also placing them with companies that want to hire them. Just an amazing guy. But he shared about, wanting to build his own Instagram account and hiring some hotshot that said, hey, I've got this, we'll build you a following. And he said, so he built a following to 5,000, largely paying for the traditional Insta follower, follow, unfollow game. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. That game is played on all social media. Facebook, it was on Twitter, I follow you, you follow me type of thing. It was present on Snapchat. And by the way, I forgot to turn this recording on. Glad you walked in, so I got it turned on. Hell, I'm Urbanski here talking about how to build your following on a lot of ideal clients. So, uh, where was I? All right, Justin Brooke, and paying somebody to build a following. Got 5,000 people, and then he did the ultimate test, which is actually send something to that audience, post something about what he actually does for a living, like something related to his actual business. And guess what? Crickets. And then the more he posted, his 5,000 followers started dropping down to 4,000 and so on. He got frustrated. So he took it over and he realized there are actually no secrets to faster growth. No one knows a jack unless you want to play some short term tricks and buy audience, which largely has no idea who you are. You really have to go back to like basic elements of building your business and building an audience and doing it legitly. Is there a word legitly? Legitimately, legitly. Doing it legitly. You want to quote me on that? Do it legitly, all right? That's the best way to do it. Do it legitly. And in fact, I'm going to show you a T-shirt in a moment that actually has the best trick for building an audience, but I'm going to get to that in a moment. Anyway, if you like what I'm talking about, give me some of those hearts, give me some of those likes. Comment where you are dialing in from, where you're watching this from. If you're watching a replay, also type in replay. And I would love for you if you shared, if you have a trick, if something worked for you for building your audience. What do you practice on a regular basis? What have you learned in terms of building your following, finding your audience on social media? So first things first, what this fake influencers and what the story from Justin is all about is really about building vanity metrics. Something that I've been opposed from the beginning of social media. When Facebook started, I was one of the early adopters. When Twitter started, I was one of the early adopters. Built pretty large following on Twitter, and very early on, I refused to play the game. Like I follow you, so you follow me, and before you know it, you've got 100,000 followers. Problem is that if you also follow 100,000 people, you ultimately follow no one. Right. So my message from the very beginning, from the early days of social media, was always the same. I don't care how many followers you have. I don't care how many people like your page. What I care about, how many people actually pay attention to anything that you post, right? Because that's what ultimately matters. When you say something, is anybody actually hearing you? Is anybody reading it? Is anybody receiving it? Is anybody paying attention? That's what really matters. And ultimately, is that attention converted to sales and clients? So that's number one. Don't follow vanity metrics. Don't fall for vanity metrics. And number two, um, I had unfortunately firsthand, well, I shouldn't say firsthand, but firsthand of having people as clients and as friends who went that route of trying to get famous on social media. And I've seen a few of them build really decent, actually quite decent following. Problem is that while they were boasting great numbers of eyeballs on social media, they were actually broke. They couldn't afford to put gas in the car and get themselves to some of the engagements they were invited to as gurus for how to build a business on social media. Meanwhile, there was no business. It was all a sham. It was just they had a bunch of eyeballs. They talk good talk, but meanwhile, there was no sales on the back end. All right. So don't fall for those traps. What I want to share with you is 5 steps, what actually does work. Same things, similar things that Justin just shared in his little post. I'm going to just expand on this a little bit. So I like little acronyms. I like sequences. So I'm going to give you 5 words that start with letters D, one letter with letter D, and take you through it. So step number one is decide. Decide why you want to build any type of audience. Today there are a lot of people that, as a gimmick for promoting their businesses, always talk about, well, don't teach content, don't create stuff, just go for the sale. Now, some of them have created pretty decent following, pretty good success, and you can argue with that. However, what you can argue with is their success, the success of their followers, which is pretty mediocre at best, if any at all. They've got a few outliers, as any program, any strategy, and a tactic would. But in terms of consistent success for the clients, they get zero. All right. They fall into the basic category of 1 to 3 to maybe 5% success rate, which means 95% of people that try to follow the tactics ultimately fail. So that tells you that this is essentially worse than flipping the coin. If you flip a coin, you've got 50-50 chance of succeeding, right? So this whole idea of don't create content, don't build an audience. And by the way, meanwhile, while you're watching this, they also do build content, do create content, and they do build audiences. That's the most amazing part. So don't follow this BS advice. Decide to build an audience. But while you're doing this, the big decision is decide to build an audience for the right reasons. When Snapchat started a few years back, and then when it sort of shifted from just sending naked pictures to each other into a little bit more of a business community, I got on it, and like within 90 days I got 2 5-figure clients out of it, which was pretty cool. In fact, I've got one client that's an amazing client for me. That's probably at some point actually pretty close will be a 6-figure client for me. So multi-year relationship, off relationship on Snapchat, right? But when I got on it, I was very clear from the very get-go. I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to teach business and attract people who want to do business. Very quickly build a following. I don't know how big it was. It was kind of hard to measure it on Snapchat. By my own accounts, probably about 2,000 people, maybe or so. Didn't matter. Decision would matter that I wanted to get on it. I wanted to test it. I wanted to see if my audience is there, and I wanted to build an audience of people that wanted to consume my content. Same thing on Twitter. When I got on Twitter, the decision was I'm there not to build numbers. I'm not there to make friends. I'm not there to share about what I had for lunch. I'm there to teach business tactics and strategies and see if I can find an audience that wants to follow me. Same thing on Facebook. And I had many friends who got on Facebook and very quickly went broke because they were just like, oh, look at this, look at this. Now, some of them were able to figure out how to deliver value long term and monetize it. Many of them weren't, and they had to go back and start from scratch. From the very get go on Facebook, I made a decision. It didn't matter if it was my personal profile or page or whatever. I am there for business. Even on my profile, I am there for business. This isn't my let's make friends. Did I make friends along the way? Plenty, like real good friends. But my idea was from the very get go, let's share stuff that my ideal potential clients would like to consume and let them find me and come to me. All right. So I've decided that why I want to do this. I decided that it's worth to do it, that it's worth investing my time. And I decided that my ultimate outcome is I want to get clients out of this. I'm doing this for business. No other reason except for build my business. So you've got to make decisions for you. What do you want to ultimately accomplish? Is it worth it for you to do this? Right? That's really the thing. If you decide it's not worth it, then don't do it. So that's step number one, decide. Second step is absolutely paramount. It's fundamental. Most people skip it. Most people just kind of throw mud at the wall and hope that something sticks. So the second step is you've got to define your ideal potential client. And I know there are so many trainings on defining your niche and your perfect client persona, perfect prospect persona, all of this. I teach this to my clients as well. Don't make it overly complicated. just decide on a few parameters. Let's say you go after entrepreneurs. And let me tell you what entrepreneurs ultimately want. They want to be successful. They want freedom. And then they want strategies for building business, business models, business tactics, marketing, sales, acquiring clients. We all want the same thing, right? Look, I'm growing a business beyond what a startup entrepreneur would be, but I still have the same questions and the same method, the same dilemma, just at a different level, right? Which way do the work that we attract clients? How do we scale our selling efforts? How do we, are we building the right business model? How we grow our team? Same questions. Those are questions that will never be solved. If you're dealing with people that have health issues, same thing, right? Eating healthy, eating clean, building muscle, losing fat, looking good, slimming down, building up. If you're looking for people that are doing relationships, right? Falling in love, falling out of love, rekindling love, finding the ideal soulmate, breaking up clean, fighting clean, keeping the sex dirty, whatever. Same topics over and over. We're just, it doesn't matter that some other people are doing this. Well, your job is not to reinvent ice cream, but to find your own flavor. That's it. Lots of people teach marketing like I do. Maybe you do. Lots of people in my community are actually business consultants, coaches, and trainers. And they come to me to train them how to do their business. And then they in turn go and teach other people, right? Why would someone come to me versus somebody else? Because they relate to me. They find something humorous. I don't know what. Somehow they connected with me and I decided, hey, let's go do business with this Urbanski guy. That's it. It's just that simple, right? So define your ideal audience. And when you define your ideal audience, you will start realizing what is it that they want to consume and follow. That is the ultimate trick right there. If you disconnect right now, that is the ultimate trick. Decide to do it and define who it's for. Now, once you define who it's for, the third D is develop. Develop content that your audience wants to consume and develop it fairly regularly. I'm a big proponent of, I'm actually a king of consistent inconsistency. But when I'm consistent, what I aim to do is at least 1 to 2 pieces of content every single week, right? 1 to 2 pieces of content every single week. If you're really aggressive when you're building things up, try a piece of content 3 to 5 days. If you really are at it, try a piece of content every day. It doesn't have to be long. And there are lots of strategies. This isn't a detailed tactical how to develop content schedule. I'll probably cover it some other time. Actually, I do have some other trainings in the group about strategic content development. But the point is develop content, right? So let me give you just a couple of tricks here. Things that are always in demand. Things like how to get started. Things like biggest mistakes to avoid. Best ways to accomplish something. Myths that you believe in that are tripping you up, best tools, tricks, and tactics. That's it, right? So don't ask me to repeat this. I've made some notes, but I don't want to do this. So how to get started, um, biggest mistakes, best way to tricks and tips and tricks, tools and tactics, myths to avoid, and maybe frequently asked questions that you want to address. That's it, right? So that's kind of the basic ideas of starting with the content. Then you've got so many variations to go down from this. Number 4 is the trickiest part, right? Because number 3, you should know. You should know how to develop content. It should be based on your expertise. All the content should be extension of what you actually teach to the clients already. It should be super easy for you. So number 4 is driving eyeballs, driving viewership. That's a tricky part. How do you do this, right? Because one of the biggest complaints or questions or dilemmas that my clients often will face is they don't have following developed yet. So they'll start posting something like on a Facebook page. Well, they have 100 likes. So if they post things on a Facebook page that has 100 likes, you realize that Facebook will put it in front of 3 to 5% of that audience. So 3 to 5, maybe 10 people will see it. That's it, right? And then you go like, well, I'm not getting any traction. Of course you're not. That audience is too small. So one of the first things is start posting things in places where Facebook will give it more. I'm talking about Facebook, but other platforms will be similar. Post it in a place where Facebook will give it more distribution, namely your personal profile. Chances are you've got more friends there than you've got on your business page, right? Not everybody is your ideal potential client there, but that's okay. Don't worry about it for now. Just keep doing this. So, a few things to drive viewership. All right. Number 1, start at home. Everyone has a list Just not everyone has an organized list, or not everyone has a way to distribute messages to that list. But if you open your iPhone or your Droid or whatever phone you use, or your computer, your email, you have a list of contacts. You have a phone book and a list book, whatever it's called, address book, right? So go through that and see who could benefit from the messages that you share. And first things first, invite those people. Yes, you're going to have to do it by hand. Yes, you have to do some copying and pasting. But you know what? Invest a few minutes every day for 2 or 3 weeks. And before you know it, you're going to have a few hundred people following you and paying attention to you, right? Whether you're building a Facebook group or YouTube channel, or just inviting people to start liking you on your Facebook profile or Instagram or whatever channel you are building, right? So, number one, start at home, invite your existing audience. Number two, ask for favors. So, with your existing audience, there are some people that have some of the micro audiences. Ask them, hey, if you like this, share it with the friends. Ask people, share, invite friends. The more, the merrier. Give them reasons to do this, right? Number three, start courting influencers, right? So who is, I call them sneezers. Who are there are people that would enjoy your message, but they also have clout in the community that's fairly large, that if they just sneeze and go, hey, go check this person out, or this person just did a great post, a bunch of people will come to you. So court those people, build relationships with them. And number five is, how do you build relationships with them? Well, the trick to being a great leader and a great content developer is being a great follower and a great content consumer. So go and be part of their communities, go and consume their content, go and comment on their stuff, go and be a good citizen in their communities. Don't be a jackass that shows up and like hijacks the audience, right? Now there are ways to do this. There are tactics to do this. That, being controversial, stirring up some storms, to say it nicely. There are ways to do this, but to start with, just be a good citizen in someone else's community and be helpful. And before you know it, people will start paying attention. You will be standing out. People will be following you. Again, I don't want to dive deep into this, but you get the overall idea. Um, and then finally, number five. Number five is kind of the linchpin that brings it all together. Number five is devote time and effort, and if needed, some finances. So, look, this is where my shirt comes in. This is what we send to our clients in our revenue rev up. Obviously, I've got a mastermind as a head honcho in there. But what I really want to share with you is the message on the back. This is one of the things that take the ultimate shortcut, do the work. Take the ultimate shortcut, do the work. It's just mind boggling that sometimes I come across people that I talk to them once and then I don't see them. And then I'll see them again a year, 2, 3, 5 years later. And you know what? Those idiots are still looking for shortcuts. Every day they're going like, oh, did you see what so and so? Oh my God, did you see the latest technique? Wow, did you hear about this method? I'm like, yeah, I've heard about all of them. And I ignored them all. You know why? Because I'm sticking to my thing, doing my thing. Just like this post that I started with from Justin. He said, it's like a total noob mistake. Right? I should have known better. There are no shortcuts. The shortcut is roll up your sleeves, go do the work. So devote time and effort. If needed, devote a little bit of cash. Look, if you instead of looking for shortcuts for the next 90 days, do a little bit of work for the next 90 days. And if you keep looking for shortcuts in 90 days, you will still be at the starting point. If you start doing the work in 90 days, you're going to have a minimum of a few hundred, chances are a few thousand of eyeballs looking at every single thing you post out there. Same thing goes to cash. I'm not telling you go and start investing thousands of dollars in advertising, but again, social media, anybody that has a decision making power in your business right now has a social media account, is on Facebook, and therefore they can be targeted on Facebook, right? So, and you can start advertising on Facebook for as little as 30 to 50 bucks a month. I would say start with $100. If you cannot afford $100 a month to put into ads, then you probably don't have a business. You have a hobby. You're kidding yourself. Go get a job. All right, $100 is within everybody's reach. And by the way, I'm not talking about let's put $100 and get $1 million out of it. I'm saying put $100 and don't even worry if it does anything or not. All you want to do is just bring in eyeballs and just deliver good value. Which, by the way, that should be my point number 6. And when you're doing all of this, Decide to deliver good value. Don't worry. People always ask, well, what should be my call to action? What should I pitch? You know what? Sometimes you shouldn't pitch at all. Now that in this video, I mentioned my program. Indirectly, I'm kind of talking about the things that I do, my revenue driven program, my master's forum, if it's appropriate. I do mention ways that are paid ways for clients to engage with me, but not every post, not every piece of content you put out there needs to have like, well, by the way, your next step right now is to do this and go and subscribe and go schedule a session. That turns people off. That makes them prepared, like, oh yeah, he's only doing this or she's only doing this to pitch me. So sometimes you just want to show up and deliver value to your audience. Don't mention anything, right? Don't mention your call to action. If you give people good shit, guess what happens? They'll start digging in, going like, hey, what else do they have? Well, what else should I be looking? This happens all the time when people land into my community. They don't see any calls to action, but guess what? They start digging. They start looking for old posts, and then they start messaging like, hey, is this still open? Hey, is this still available? Right? Don't worry about pitch at every single piece of content. Just deliver good value. So there you have it. Let me wrap it up really quick. All right. Um, Before I sum up the five step method, the first thing is avoid vanity metrics. Don't build fake followers. Don't engage in building an audience that has absolutely zero interest in what it is that you do. Build an audience of people that actually want to consume what you have. And that audience, to build that audience, there are no shortcuts. The ultimate shortcut is do the work. And do the work is on five, but actually now I came up with 6 steps, right? So number one is decide that it's worth for you to do and decide what the outcome is of you doing this. Number two is define your ideal audience and what it is that they ideally want to consume. Number three, develop the kind of content that this audience will absolutely love to eat up every single time you serve. Number four, drive views, and I gave you a bunch of methods how to do this. Number five, devote time and effort, and if necessary, a little bit of financial resources to build that audience. And number six, deliver good stuff. Deliver good stuff consistently, and don't worry about monetizing it right out of the gate or trying to pitch every single time. That will build good value, build goodwill first, and it will turn into a business. All right, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for all attention. Thanks for all the likes and hearts and comments. And until next time, here's to your success. Cheers.